Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Fullest podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Bostwick, and today's guest is Heather Parkin, who's the founder of Bend. And Bend is a yoga mat and meditation and essentials company, basically, but I'll have Heather tell you a little bit more about Bend. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited for this conversation. I think that ever since I came across your brand and your products, I just had this, it was just like perfect timing for me because I had this, several months. It was like right when COVID had first, all the like shutdowns had happened, and I had time to really reflect on my closet and textiles and all sorts of things that we used in our home. And I've always been interested in sustainability, but really redefining what that meant for me and for my family. And I think a lot of brands are all about saying that they're sustainable, but that could mean so many different things. Like it could mean recycled plastic, and that's cool, but like I want natural materials. And so when I came across your brand, I was just like, oh my gosh, this person totally gets it. And it's amazing. And I can't wait. And I just absolutely loved using my mat all the time. And so I'm just so happy to have you on so we can talk more about it. And because there's so many elements to your products for why they're better for people and for the planet. So thanks for joining us.
It's so interesting because when I started on this quest, one of my intentions was to not use recycled plastics. And I know that there is a place for it, and that, companies that are using recycled plastics and turning it into other things, they're taking these things out of the environment and getting rid of them. But at the same time, the future, like what the future holds in this process, we still don't know. So if it's a recycled, plastic water bottles and turned it into yoga clothes, you're still wearing plastic. And so you're still, it's still going into your bloodstream, and it's still going to mess with your reproductive system. And we don't know what the outcome's going to be, so there's always good and bad sides to everything. And although, it's doing great things for the environment, at the same time, when you're recycling these things, what are you using to create the recycling process, and what kind of chemicals are being released into the atmosphere at that point, so there's so many factors that go into it. And that was one of the things that I did not want to do. I did not want to use any sort of plastic anywhere in the entire brand. And that's really hard.
It's really hard. And you've done such an incredible job. And I think, one of the things with yoga mats in particular, I think people want it to perform a certain way. And so some people are like, I'd rather have it be this way so that I get the ultimate workout, or, because it's turned into wanting it to be this like crazy workout or whatever.
Right.
And I just love the fact that your mats take you back to your intention, to what you want to get out of your practice in a way that first off, I do think that it performs really well. I mean, people put blankets on their mats all the time. And so to me, that's way more uncomfortable than just having a mat that is has a great, what is it? I don't know what word.
Like grip performance.
Yes, grip performance. And yours has that. So I'm really impressed. And that's why I was just like, I can't wait to hear her story with how I read, you've been in the industry for a really long time. You've been a yoga practitioner for decades. And so obviously you have your personal practice and you understand what people want out of it. But then coming up with a brand, and then, like you said, really having these strict guidelines and then adhering to them, and then working with manufacturers overseas and then bringing them into fruition is a whole nother thing. So I'm just really excited to hear how that kind of came to be. And then also just this concept of medicinal dyes too, because I think you can have natural textiles and you can have the like natural rubber and like all that that's coming together. But then there's this element of how this textile is also working with you. It's made out of plant dyes that are, you know, giving you maybe something that you need at this time. So I love that idea. And I want to know, like, is that just something that they've done forever in Ayurveda? And you just kind of like came upon that and you were like, oh my gosh, no one knows about this?
Yeah, it was quite shocking. So, I've had, my family makes fun of me because I've had 38 different careers and or jobs in my life. And it's like always this running joke in my family, like, what is she going to do next? Right.
Yeah.
And so throughout all those different things, I've gone from, I went to school for fashion and interior design. I was a makeup artist for 22 plus years nationally. And I knew from being a makeup artist for so long, I had went through a period of time in my 30s when I went through like this whole health crisis. And I was it kind of was like my started my quest for holistic health, but I had a total health crisis. I had been in the emergency room every month for a year. I went to the emergency room every single month for a year straight, and nobody could figure out what was wrong. And I started seeing a holistic doctor, and within a month we figured out the problem. And it was that I had such an overabundance of soy in my body from doing makeup and for so long and every day. I would do runway and film and TV. And so I'd be on set for like 12 to, 15 hours with these toxic products using on my hands, where you can absorb, your hands and feet is where you could absorb the quickest and the fastest. It has the largest concentrated like amount of pores on your body are those places, right? So from being on set all day or whatever, I was absorbing these toxins, and I had such an overabundance of soy in my body that I couldn't get pregnant. I had so much inflammation. I was so sick. And so that kind of like started my quest, right, of just changing my lifestyle completely. And I got into health and wellness, and I became an LED light therapist. And I started this quest of like what you put in your body really can affect your entire life. And it wasn't even just about skincare and makeup. It was the foods I was eating and the bed I was sleeping on and the shoes I was wearing. I mean, it's everything. And you don't realize it, or at least I didn't realize it until I was really sick and, there was something wrong. So, kind of fast forward, I don't know, about 8-9 years, we had moved to San Diego, and I was full-time LED light therapist, and I missed designing and being creative, and I missed that artistic side of things. I kind of put all that aside, and I was wanting to start designing women's clothing again. And I started researching because I didn't want just like organic cotton, and I didn't want, necessarily to do sportswear, which is activewear obviously is huge, and I was like, I want something more. And so I kept researching. And I, all these years, still continuing to practice yoga. I was starting to get into Ayurveda. And upon my research, I came across this art form, and it's called Ayurvastra, and it's a form of Ayurvedic medicine. And they've been doing it in India for hundreds of years, where they're using fabric to treat patients. Doctors are using fabrics to treat, people with heart disease and hypertension and diabetes and all these different things, skin issues and,
oh my gosh,
and whatever. And they're using these fabrics. It's called healthy, Ayurvastra is healthy fabrics to help people naturally. And
oh
you
my
absorb,
gosh, what?
yeah,
This is insane. Wait, what's it called? Hold on, can you say it again? Just so
it's called Ayurvastra.
Okay. And you just came across this on your research for like when you were researching natural textiles and stuff. And then you found
Blew
out.
me away. I was like, what is wait a second here. Like, what is this? Why aren't we doing it in the States? Like, this could help so many people. And why isn't this being done? And so they use they use this fabric to, like, let's say somebody goes to the Ayurvedic doctor or the Ayurvedic center, in Jaipur or whatever, and they go and they give the doctor their list of health problems, and they will give them fabric to wear, like pajamas to wear. And you wear this at night. And then when you're sleeping at night is when you can absorb, the most. It's when your body goes into that parasympathetic state. And it's the best time for your body to heal. So it blew me away. I was like, what the? We are in the States. Fast fashion is like running the world, right?
Yeah.
And like there's so many things that can be done, but people don't want to do it because it's a very lengthy process. It's not quick. It's not something that you could sell at like H&M or Target or Zara, or you know what I mean? And so people in the industry that it's too much. People don't want to do it. So I was was researching who was doing this, where these dyers were, and I got on the phone with quite a few people. And there's a language barrier. Obviously, when I first started, there was a huge language barrier, and I had, I found some people down in southern India who were like, yeah, we'll send you fabric, send money to this bank account, and we'll send you stuff. Right. And I was like, I don't, I don't know about that. I'm not, willing to write a $5,000 check in hopes that you're going to send me fabric, so I kind of like through all that, finding exactly what I wanted. So I kind of just put it to rest. And I was like, if it's meant to be, if I find something and it's meant to be, will be awesome. And we'll go from there. But it just wasn't happening. Like I kept hitting these dead ends. And so I finally met with somebody I found on Instagram, actually, through a couple other accounts that I follow. And I called this woman up and I said, can we get on the phone? And we ended up talking on the phone for like 2 hours on a Saturday.
Oh.
And I was like, this is what I want to do. Looking for fabric. I want to make women's clothing, and, and we just connected on every level. Like there were so many different connections. It's like we have known each other our entire lives, and it was quite amazing. And by the time I got off the phone, it was just like this beautiful connection. And it's crazy because like during this like whole time I was going through this whole yoga series with a yoga teacher of mine about following your dharma. And it was like a 2-week series. So I was like deep into that. And like all these things were aligning. And so basically by the time I got off the phone with this woman, she's like, we're starting to do these things. I have some ideas. We're starting to do work on these yoga mats. And I was like, that's awesome. I'll totally order them from you. Personal for myself. Like I have some friends that would be into it. But I kind of just push it to the side. Like I wasn't really, my mind was like fashion, it was like, I was like on a one-way track at that point. And
yeah.
I remember the moment so well that I had gotten out of my car and I'd walked to the front door and I dropped my keys, and it's like so vivid in my mind. I dropped my keys, and by the time I picked up my keys and like kind of stood up, I was like, holy shit. Can I swear on here?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, wait a second here. This is huge. Like we could do so much with this. I'm putting myself in a box. So why am I putting myself in a box? We can do. So the yoga industry needs something like this. And at that point I had been searching for a non-toxic mat for so many years. I'd constantly searching non-toxic, organic, natural.
It doesn't exist unless it's yours.
It doesn't exist. And I was just like, oh my God, like, wait a second. Like I was like at that point, my brain was just like rattling off 9,000 different thoughts of like, we could do like, this could be huge. We could do so much with this. Like, this is everything I've, always wanted. And that was that. And it was kind of like, it shifted really, really quickly.
That's amazing. So so you basically connected with someone who's a manufacturer in India, or
correct.
Oh my gosh, like what are the odds? And you guys totally connected, like
right,
on a
right.
level.
Because she was at that point, she was just manufacturing fabric. She was manufacturing, she started out, it's funny because she started out manufacturing fabric, like just regular fabric. And at the time she was studying Ayurvastra and starting to
Okay.
get into these natural dyes and starting to use, natural dyes in fabric. And I ordered a bunch of fabric from her because I was like, I'm still going to like make clothes on my downtime. I love designing and
Yeah.
pattern making and all that. So I was like, I'm going to do all this and continue on with this. Um, and, but in the meantime, like we can develop all this other stuff. And so she was like, it was like we were both growing at the same time in the same direction with the same vision. Right. And it was
It's
it was meant
so
to be.
incredible. It's totally meant to be. I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
I think about my relationship with some of my manufacturers and I'm like, this needs to be like, we need to like go to therapy together or something. Like, not ideal. And I like just, I just don't believe in having, that sort of a relationship in a business. I think it's a mutual thing and they might not work for you, but it's a partnership and you want to be
Right.
on the same page and you want to, understand each other. And even if you don't even like have the same interests, but this is like, just, that's amazing. And how cool. Like I had no idea what our Ayurvastra was. And now I'm like, I need the pajamas. I need them for my husband and my son. And I hope that you expand and have those because how cool is that?
Yeah. There's a lot coming up in the next couple years that I can't divulge right now, but we're working on, and it's exciting. And I think I'm determined to change not just the yoga industry, but many industries in the whole, because there's so much that can be done with this.
Yeah. I haven't worn regular yoga clothes in like over a year at this point because I just, I don't want that on my body. And I'm really particular about what type of textiles I use on my and wear. And so I think there's definitely still a gap there. I know that
Mm-hmm.
having like, or there are a couple brands I love that have come out with like organic, active wear, but they're
Yeah.
still using like, elastane or, like a spandex, like just a
Mm-hmm.
small percentage, but it still feels like, that's great. And that's where we're at right now. But I know that there's just so much room for it. And I
Yeah.
think it's so amazing. And like starting with something as well, I feel like it's way easier, in my opinion, it would probably be easier to do the clothing thing than the mats. So I think you did like one of the hardest parts first in some regards because you, like we mentioned before, there's like the performance and stuff like that people really care about, but it just makes such a big difference. Like you said, your hands and your feet, if that's what's absorbing the quickest and the most, then like you're in down dog,
Mm-hmm.
on a plastic mat, like
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah.
and you're sweating, your palms are sweating and you're just like
Mm-hmm.
absorbing all your heat. It's just, I just think it just makes so much sense to do what you're doing. And I'm so glad that you're the one doing it.
It's crazy too, because like not only are you absorbing these things when you're in your yoga poses through your hands and feet, but when you're in a hot area or a hot room, like if you're doing hot yoga, the particles from your plastic mat are also releasing into the atmosphere. And because your breathing is deeper, you're breathing all that crap that is releasing off your mat. So like
Yeah.
you're getting it twofold. So you're not only getting what is it being absorbed through your skin, you're breathing. And if your plastic mat is old and like, there's not some, I mean, there's people are still making PVC mats, but there's more companies are going at least more eco-friendly, but these PVC mats, if they're ripped or if there's like, it's like breaking apart, you're releasing even more toxins into that room
Yeah.
with that, so there's so many different levels of toxicity, and it sucks because so many people use yoga for health benefits, right?
Yeah.
And 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 if you're pregnant and you're, on these things, it can mess with your reproductive system. And there's studies that have shown that, the PVC from mats, and it can affect pregnant women. And that's so scary in itself,
Mm-hmm.
but,
I know.
and it's one of the things that I really enjoy hearing from customers, because this is kind of what had happened to me. It's totally changed my practice, because when you're on a regular yoga mat, the performance grip is created to assist you. So it almost makes your practice, it kind of does it for you, right?
Yeah.
It holds the grip for you. Whereas on a bend mat, it forces you to really be present and aware about where your weight distribution is. And so it
Mm-hmm.
makes your practice harder. So I've noticed for myself, and, other customers have told me this too, that their core is stronger because they work harder, because
Mm-hmm.
the mat's not doing it for them. They actually have to hold their weight distribution properly. So like when a teacher's like, place your weight, your hands and feet, and da da da. Most of the time, if you're on like a regular, high performance grip mat, that mat's doing half the work for you.
Yeah.
So you're not using as much as your core. That has been a really interesting, addition to just hearing people's experiences, and them telling me that, their posture is better, and they're more aware, like when they're sitting, and just all these different things that are just really cool side effects, I guess you could say, from, switching up their practice.
Hey everyone, I'm interrupting this episode to tell you about Prima. 75 to 90% of all doctor's visits are for stress-related issues. That's a huge number of conditions that can potentially be managed with lifestyle changes alone. Many of us are operating in survival mode, expecting our skin, bodies, and minds to thrive when we're running on empty. And that's why Prima is passionate about helping people manage their stress naturally with their range of products for mind, body, and skin. They're California-based and also purpose-led, and have partnered with doctors to formulate products that specifically tackle this issue. Their products have also been clinically validated for skin, body, and mind. If you're interested in experimenting with CBD for daily stress, try Prima's The Daily CBD Capsules. Another way to incorporate CBD is as a sleeping aid. If you're in need of more restorative sleep and don't want to wake up groggy the next morning, their Sleep Tight is also an amazing way to improve sleep quality without the use of heavy meds. Prima is also offering our listeners an exclusive limited time 20% off offer with the code THEFULLEST. Head to prima.co/thefullest to start feeling better naturally.
Definitely. I mean, when you choose a mat like yours, then you're really starting to notice everything, because you're intentionally going that route. And then it's like, it's just opens up the mind, and it's so beautiful. I love it. So will you tell us more about just like the natural dyes? And I mean, I know you have a few new ones that recently came out that you've been working with, but in general, you have such interesting combinations, and I love them all. So I'm just curious.
So Harda is one of the biggest ones that we use. And Harda is 1/3 of the Ayurvedic formula, Triphala, and which is excellent for digestive health.
Mm-hmm.
And I started using it through Sun Potion, like before Bend was even, and I would be putting it in my coffee every morning, and it really, really helped with my digestive system. And like with doing light therapy, it would, it helps absorb it. And so I was like obsessed with that herb, and I was like, this is like the greatest thing besides my ashwagandha, and I was like, I would recommend it to all my clients that had digestive issues. And so starting to work with that herb was really, really cool to see all the different colors that it was able to produce. And then all the benefits that it has, not only just with digestive health, but it helps with memory, retention, and focus ability, and inflammation, and like so many things. And, each herb produces different shades of different colors. And so like the Harda herb will produce different shades of gray and browns and neutral colors. And so that is probably the most prominent herb that you'll see throughout the line, because everything starts in your gut, and it's such a a big difference in your health.
Yeah.
If you don't have good gut health, a whole slew of things, it's like a ripple effect. So that's one of the main ones that we use because of that very reason. Another one that you'll see a lot is turmeric, which produces amazing shades of yellow, and as also it's like the king of anti-inflammatory herbs. And so yellow is one that we use. We use indigo a lot, and indigo is really good for the immune strength and protecting against colds and flus, and
Wow.
really boosting your immune system. And it's crazy. So the indigo is the most potent herb as far as color goes.
Yeah.
So our indigo mats, like for instance, just recently, our batch of indigo mats, the indigo was so potent that it rubbed onto the natural part of the mat. And you can see the indigo when we have really heavy indigo color. It's like in your hands, right?
Yeah.
And so like when I'm like, packaging up things, I'm like, I'm like,
You
get that
almost
indigo
love
on my hands, right? Especially
Yeah.
like now.
Well, I love it too because it's not common to find that color in nature, and like that color is associated with your throat chakra. And so I just love that that's part of the collection. And I had no idea the immune boosting benefits and stuff like that. So it's really cool that it has so many properties that are good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. And it's so pretty. It's crazy because when you look at indigo, like when we mash it down into a powder, it's almost black, like it's the darkest navy. And to see it produce like anywhere from these like light sky blues to these deep dark colors, it's really, really cool to watch. And like every season, the plants will produce different shades. So, you'll see on the website that the colors of a mat, but then, a batch that we get in still be in the same color family, but the shades may be different. They may be a little bit lighter. They may be a little bit deeper. And so you get a really wide range. And the reason for that is because every season is going to produce different plants.
Yeah.
It's still like, for like the turmeric plant, like, fall might be a little bit deeper than spring.
Yeah.
And it also depends on like how long it's been growing for and how old the plant is. So seeing that is really cool because, some people are like, they want to know the color and they can't take it that they might get something different than they see on the website. Right. And other people are like, surprise me. Like, this is so cool that it produces different shades. And as long as I know that it's kind of, it's going to be pretty similar, like I'm totally okay with it,
Yeah.
So, but
I
it's
love
neat
that.
to see.
And you're using currently is it sapan wood?
Sapin wood.
Sapin wood. And then okay, so is that something that because you don't give sapin wood to the customer when they order it. Like is it just like ground up soap nut?
That is our soap nut. Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about that, which I love. Like, but last time when I got it, it wasn't ground. It was just the actual like pod.
Nut. Yeah. So what we have found, and I'm really excited about this because we're going to be selling soap nut in bulk soon. And we're getting these really cool soap nut bags made that have like the directions on them as well. But soap nut is awesome. So we started with just giving the nut. But what we have found is that in order to activate the nut, you have to boil it in water and then use it in your washing machine or if you're hand washing. And it's like there's all these steps and that's too much. Like who has time for that? I don't, and so even if you're not working full time and you don't have family, you still don't have time to do all those steps. Nobody wants to do it. So we were trying to find different ways to be able to use still use it because it grows on trees. It's completely natural. It's antibacterial. It's great for people with sensitive skin. It's great for babies. Like the list goes on and on of how awesome this detergent is. And so we started grinding it up into powder, and that activates it immediately. Immediately when it touches water, it activates. And so it's so much easier to use. And it's, you don't have to do all the steps. And so not like personally, we use it for everything now. You can use soap nut to wash your hands. You can use it, I don't use it for my hair, but I know that you can use it for that. And it's just this really amazing natural detergent. And it's less wasteful.
I'm never putting my mat in the washing machine again, like what my husband did. I was like, no, but you could use the soap nut basically as your dish, or not dish, your laundry powder.
Correct.
So
yeah.
Cool. And then how do you recommend like washing the mats then so that they stay in the shape that they're in?
Yeah. So you can wash it in a washer. If you have a high efficiency washer, the kind that doesn't have the agitator in the middle, you can wash it on that, but it needs to be on like the most gentlest hand wash cycle, cold water with soap nut that your machine offers. And then you want to hang dry it in the shade. You can either hang dry it in the shade outside or on a shower curtain rod or like over a door, but you don't want to put it in the sun because the sun will actually, so the medicines that are in all the products are alive and active, and the sun will weaken the medicines. Mm-hmm. As will you also, because the medicines are alive and active, if you're like in a hot yoga class, you want to make sure when you're done, especially if you sweat a lot, that you dry and let the mat dry out completely before you roll it up. Mm-hmm. Because of the fact the medicines, basically it'll mold because of the live medicine. So like, it's the same kind of idea. Like if you leave, I don't know, like something in your fridge for too long, it's going to mold because it's alive. The food is alive, right? So it's the same thing. Hopefully. You don't want to, and we learned the hard way with this. This was one of our trial and errors that, we learned, don't roll up your mat when it's wet because that will happen. So, we put, obviously disclaimers like the do's and don'ts and how to care for your mat and all that kind of stuff. But you can wash it in the washing machine. It just has to be, on the gentlest possible way. And if you don't wash it in the washing machine, you can do it like hand wash it. If you have like a bucket outside, like I'll sometimes, wash the mat outside. I have like one of these big bins and I'll just fill it with water, activate the soap nut. I'll put like one of the pouches of soap nut, activate it, and then just hand wash it, rinse it off with a hose and hang it to dry.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know that you're selling soap nut then in bulk, like powdered, so people can like go back and buy it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited about that. I need to send you some more so you can start using it in your laundry and see how you like it.
Yeah. I love all that stuff. I went to Tulum for my honeymoon, and I remember buying soap nut, but just like not knowing what to do with it. Like it was like the same thing where I was like, this is so cool. It's the natural like version of soap, what it's like supposed to be like. But then I was kind of like, okay, now what? And so I really agree with you. I think it's so important when we share these like ancient or like indigenous practices and stuff like that to really make it easier for people to adopt. Yeah. And I think it's such a good idea to make it into a powder.
Yeah. And also, we've learned, obviously like when we attach the soap nut to the bag and you get it, people are like, what's this powder? Because there's not the directions on it, even though like, it's on the website and this and that, like, that's another thing that it's kind of a lot of things with new companies. It's just trial and error. What do people want? What is working? What's not working? And, that was one of the things like, okay, this is the soap nut as an actual form of nut, because people sell it like that as the nut. You can find it online, but then they don't go through the process of explaining how to use it. They just say, throw it in your wash. Well, your clothes aren't going to get that clean because it's not activating properly. Right. And so in theory, it's great, but it needs to be functionable, form and function, so If it's not functional, nobody's going to do it. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get these. I'm excited to sell it in bulk. I'm excited to, have the directions, on the pouch.
Yeah.
And, so that'll be, cool when we launch that.
Another thing I love is you guys, like, just other things that people don't think about, right? So your meditation pillows and your blocks and stuff like that, like what they're stuffed with. I mean, again, it's just everything is so intentional. And I love that the fill is also just everything is so legit. So can you tell us a little bit about that too?
Yeah. So we they're all hand loomed, hand dyed. The same thing. We use the 22 different Ayurvedic medicines to infuse into the threads. We fill all the pillows and cushions with organic buckwheat hulls and organic lavender. And then any of the scraps that we have left over, even scraps of like the yoga mats, like a lot of times, before I wrap things up and package them up, I'll have to trim, the edges of the mats, like where the tassel parts are. And like that's extra fabric and it's medicinal. So like I'll even take that and stuff it into the cushion. So we don't waste anything. And so any of our scraps during the manufacturing process left over from these cushions and or mats, we recycle into handmade paper, and we use that paper for the branding. And one of the things that we do is that handmade paper gets cut into strips, and we use that for people, like when on the website, they can leave 3 intentions or personal mantras that we'll write on this handmade paper. I'll meditate on it, do a little Reiki on it, and then I stuff it into the cushions. And you'll always have those intentions infused into your pillows. So it makes it really personal, and it also allows you to meditate on those intentions while you're on your cushion. I think it adds, a really nice personalization to your meditation set that nobody's doing. And it just kind of is one of those little extra things that customers love. And that experience is part of the process. So
I love that. What is it about buckwheat hulls that, I mean, I know that I have like a few things that are stuffed with it. Is it just like, is there anything specific about that too? Or is just like another natural product that you use in the stuff process? Because like we know lavender obviously has like calming properties.
Right. A couple different things. The buckwheat hulls are extremely supportive. So, meditation pillows can be filled with husk, with flaxseed, with rice, with, they can be filled with foam. They can be filled with synthetic materials. I mean, there's so many different things. And so obviously we wanted to stay all natural. It's funny because a lot of people say when you start a business, you're starting it because you can't find it in the market, right? It's something that you want.
Yeah.
And so I have found this to be definitely to be true. And I was always a couple things, like when I would meditate, I was always like feeling like it was never comfortable. Like I couldn't sit still. My back would hurt. My shoulders would feel heavy. Like it was just kind of like, I never found something that I was, that was supportive. And so that was one of the big things with the meditation cushion is I wanted full support. Mm-hmm. I wanted something that was going to allow me to sit upright and be more present. And so, when we were looking at different fills, flaxseed wasn't firm enough. And,
okay.
I was actually filling pillows, for our bed at the time. And buckwheat hulls was one of the options. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And so I played around with it quite a bit, and they're so firm. And I was like, this is perfect. And also they're really, they can be used for so many different things. They're used for mulch. You can repurpose them. You can put them back into the earth, which is obviously really important because everything in the line, we want to be able to be biodegradable and be able to just put back into the earth. And so that is doable with the buckwheat hulls. So that's kind of where, why we chose those. And also when they expand, if once you're sitting on it and you're using the meditation cushions or pillows, after time, they really respond nicely, I guess I could say. They don't lose their shape and their support, which is great. So over time, it'll hold up really well.
I like that too, because I've also heard like flaxseed, how like some foods have like more estrogen in them and stuff. And so like buckwheat just feels like more neutral. I love it.
And it's gluten-free, which is awesome because people have, gluten allergies. So that, that's a big thing. And it's funny because rice was somebody had suggested rice, and I was like, I don't want to use rice because a couple different things. And the main reason was if rice gets wet, it expands and molds, right? So like, God forbid, like, so, it gets wet or you pour, water gets poured on it, like that's a problem. So it needs to be something that could withstand different, I don't know, weather conditions, if you will,
Yeah.
And so,
or kids.
Yeah. Or kids. Yeah. Basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love it so much. I really am such a big fan of what you've created. And also I know just from like getting to know you, ever since, coming across Bend, I know that your intention is really so pure. And I think that's so important when you start a business, because there can be other people that show up and find out like, oh, this is a great idea, I'm going to do it, and I think when you get to know the person behind the brand, it's so important because the level of trust is there, and you want what's best for your customers and you want what's best for the environment. And I think it's all in alignment together. And I just really appreciate what you've built. And so I was really excited to have you on, and I appreciate you taking the time to share with us.
Thank you. That's so sweet. You're getting me a little choked up here, but that's awesome. Thank you. I mean, I want better health for people. I want just like I said earlier, it's funny, so many people want the same things, right? Love, peace, to be understood, and for the world to be a better place.
I really think, I mean, as someone, I used to teach yoga. So like, I just think yoga, it either, like you said, it starts with the food that you eat. Maybe that's what opens your mind up. Or maybe it just starts with like taking on a yoga or meditation practice or whatever that is. But when you have a practice like that, and then like just it feels so nice to sit on something that's not synthetic, and it's so different. The response like from your body is just so different in all your senses. And like you said, I mean, you can really feel the difference. And then when that happens, you really just start to see everything so differently. And I think that's what's so cool and so beautiful about it. It just gets people to have a new perspective on every aspect of their life, whether it's, their relationships or just the decisions that they make on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And so I think it really does start on the mat, like how they say, on the mat and into the world.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you.
Loved having you. Can't wait to see what you create with Ben.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was awesome. So much fun.